Night fishing, super fun and can be extremely rewarding, but there's no denying if you're going into your first ever night, you may be feeling a little bit daunted, overwhelmed, and maybe even a little bit scared. I know I was when I was a teenager going into my first ever night session. I'm not afraid to admit it. All these years later, I've learned what works, what doesn't, how to get the best out of your night fishing and not find it this big thing they think, oh, what am I going to do at night? So hopefully you pick something up from this video, whether you're new to fishing, done it for a long time but not done the night, or you've done it for years and you think, oh yeah, that makes sense. And if I miss any points, put it in the comment section below. Help other people out to enjoy their night fishing that little bit more. And I'm not being clickbaity about it when I say that point number 5 could potentially save your life. I know I was stupid when I was younger. Still, I'm stupid sometimes. Of course, one of the biggest issues you're going to come up against whilst night fishing is the lack of light. So you're going to need to combat that with your own light source. You can still see what you're doing. Best solution, a head torch. Everywhere you look is illuminated, you can see what you're doing. But it can be a bit daunting, like which ones do I need? There's some with 3 straps, there's some with a singular strap, there's some with clips on. They all do much the same thing, it's all personal preference. If you're happy with strapping one to your head like this, and you can get it on quite quickly and easily, then go for something like this. This is a Phoenix one, pretty expensive, but super, super bright. All the way down to something like this. I think this was around the 15, 20 quid mark, it's a ripped on one. It's still bright enough, but what I really like about this one, and what I find a lot easier to put on for myself at night, because I've got a lot of hair, is that this has a little clip. So all I've got to do is slide that onto a cap, and that light is ready to go. So if I've got a blistering take in the middle of the night, rather than fumbling around trying to put an elasticated headband on that ends up strapping across your face or whatever, all I've got to do is grab my cap on and my head torch is on there ready. No fumbling with straps and elastics is going to get annoying. So that, if it's something you struggle with, getting a head torch on in a rush at night and you don't want to sleep with a head torch on, something like this that clips onto the cap is so much quicker and easier to see what you're doing in a rush when you're panicking. Now there's no denying that getting a blistering take at 3 in the morning, waking you from a deep sleep, can leave you pretty disorientated and confused. So the simple task of putting your shoes on, which was a doddle in the day, suddenly feels like an impossible task.
Case in point, a video uploaded 8 years ago from an overnighter at Shearwater. Fumbling around trying to get my walking boots on, and this is how long it took me to get to my rod. I was fishing open water, but it proves my point.
So what I do, I bring an extra pair of shoes. These are Navitas woven ones. Crocs will do the same thing. The main thing you're looking for is something that you can fold the rears down or the ankles down onto, so that when you get your feet out of the bed chair, string them out in the night, you can just slip your feet straight into them with nothing in the way. You're not fumbling trying to get your feet into trainers with laces in the way. It's just a lot easier to slip these on. So you're out the door, no problems, tending that fish with something on your feet. However, every now and then you get a take that's just so intense you think, I don't even have time to slip these on. And rather than losing the fish or it getting snagged up or something, just run out there, get wet feet, bring an extra pair of socks. It's not the end of the world if you get wet feet. It's better to get wet feet and land that fish than to fumble, worrying about getting your wet feet and lose the fish. Simple. Now this next point is a pretty simple one, but so simple it could be easily overlooked. Your rod's busting off, you've grabbed your head torch, you've slipped your shoes on, you run out your bivvy door and you trip over a landing net pole that you left there. Make sure your route from your bivvy to your rods is as clear as possible. The last thing you want to do is trip up, run into your rods in the middle of the night. Now this next point kind of follows on from the previous one of making sure your route is clear, and that is being organised, which goes hand in hand with being tidy, knowing where everything is. So to start with, this is fine in the day, I know where everything is, but when things get dark, suddenly it gets a bit more difficult to find things. So there's a spare rig going in there, ready for in the night. If I get a fish, that's ready to go. Close the lid down, put my head torch on top of that flat surface. That's always where my head torch lives. Move this out the way, camera bag and everything out the way so that my route of swinging my feet out into the shoes are as smooth as possible. Now this is the setup I always have when I'm night fishing. I always have my head this side and it's become muscle memory. Running out the bivvy door, sometimes you'd be playing a fish and look back and think, I do not remember getting out of bed, doing all that, but here I am, shoes on, head torch on, playing a fish. It becomes second nature. So much so that the one time or a couple of times when I've fished it with the other way around, it's been confusing. And it was that bad once that, yes, I may have had a side or two before bed. I had a take, bed chair was the wrong way around for how I normally do. And I tried getting out the bed chair the other way, hitting the back of the bivvy, completely confused. That's how much muscle memory plays a part in doing your night fishing. Same with the bivvy door. So most of the time I don't have my door shut. I like to get straight out to the rod. I don't like to have it all closed up. Sometimes weather doesn't allow you to do that. So you do the zip up, make sure you always have the zips in the same place every time you shut the door. That way, when it comes to playing a fish at night and you've got to get out your bivvy door, muscle memory again plays that part. I know that my zip is always down there and I tend to have a little gap so I can just grab and pull and straight out the door, no fuss. Muscle memory. Don't underestimate how much that comes to force when you've done a few nights. Point number 5 could have easily been way higher on this list, and that is bankside comfort. If you're questioning what you're doing here and you're thinking this is not for me and it's ruining your fishing, that's not a good way to start. So you want to be comfortable so you're not questioning what you're doing and more thinking, how long can I stay for? This is really good fun. And that starts with simple things like eating well, not pot noodles, which I had for lunch, which are fine at times, but decent grub can really help, especially in the winter months. A decent sleeping bag, sleeping system. I know they can be quite expensive, but if you get those things right, you will enjoy your fishing a lot more at night. I started my fishing life at night with a pretty cheap bed chair, a thin sleeping bag, and I was cold, miserable, and thought I'm doing night fishing because this is what people do, but I wasn't necessarily enjoying it. And this is where the safety aspect comes in. I hope to not take this down a somber route, because unfortunately people have lost their lives with turning on gas stoves, especially in the winter months, to get warm. It's something that I did when I was younger, before I knew about the dangers of carbon monoxide and gas. And stupidly, I had one of those camping stoves that were flat. I used to light it, put it under my bed chair so that the small of my back would get warm because I was cold. Looking back and talking about it now, I know you're probably screaming at the screen thinking, even as a teenager, you should have known that was stupid. And yes, I did, but I was that cold, I put it on and thought, 5 minutes, warm my back, turn it off, golden. The number of times I nearly fell asleep or had a bit of a headache, I know I am super, super lucky to still be here. And that's just giving me goosebumps saying it. I know how stupid I was. So please, in the winter months, do not be tempted to turn your gas stove on to keep yourself warm. Sleeping bag is what you need. Stick your coat on, or, where is it? Where's it gone? There it is. A silly hot water bottle. They are not silly. I got 2 or 3 of these in the winter, one by my feet, one on my torso, and sometimes one on the top of my back. This weighs next to nothing. Even in the summer months, it can get down pretty chilly at night sometimes. I have one of these sometimes for my back because it's getting a bit stiff. This is all you need to stay warm in the winter, not a gas stove. Sorry I had to say that, but there's a point that needs to be raised, because unfortunately, every few years a story goes around of someone being found in the bivvy no longer with us because they did something like that. So cannot urge and tell you enough not to do that. Use something like a hot water bowl, a couple of quid from a pound shop, should be a pound, not a pound shop, a couple of quid, keeps you warm and does everything you need it to. That is what I'm covering for point number 5 on comfort. So there you have it, my top tips and tricks when night fishing. So if you're going into your first ever night session, hopefully you found this helpful, or if you've done hundreds and hundreds, hopefully there's also something else in here for you. And if not, put it in the comment section below so that people that are going into nights, want a bit of more advice, can learn from the comment section as well. That's everything from me for now. Cheers for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Hopefully one of those goes off tonight as well. I'm going into a night. Still enjoy it after years.